So in the late fall of 2021, I'm quoting Spinal Tap there. No, but actually in 2021, I got a call from Keith Howland, who was Chicago's longtime guitar player. In fact, he was the longest tenured guitar player in the band Chicago, even beyond Terry Kath, if you can believe that. He gave me a call. We had met, of course, on the road. I was playing with America. He was with the Chicago. And, we'd become friends. And, he called me and basically said, with COVID going on at this time, management wants to make sure that every player has understudies lined up. And basically, what do you think? Would you like to learn the set? Blah, blah, blah. And, of course, I said, well, I'll try to make time in my schedule. No, I flipped out, actually. And I said, I'd love to do it, of course. I've been a huge fan of Chicago for a very long time, and I'd already learned many of the songs anyway, but to actually get them down pat, really learn every song, all the arrangements, that would be the honor of my life, right? So I got to learning it, and of course there's the hard stuff like Introduction or Ballad for a Girl from Buchanan, but honestly one of my favorite ones to dive into was this one, Saturday in the Park. And I think many of us out there probably know the basic chord structure, but I really wanted to learn exactly what Terry Kath was doing. And thankfully now with YouTube and the power of technology, there was a guitar isolated track that somebody had posted. I've actually got it in the description for y'all to hear. But I pulled that up and I was so surprised to hear the different voicings that Terry was doing. Now, some of them admittedly are a little tricky to figure out, is it this or is it that? But many of them are pretty easy to hear. And it was definitely different than what I expected. But that's the fun of Terry Kath's guitar playing. You never know what to expect. Now, a quick tone note here. I'm obviously using a Les Paul here through my Boogie JP2C amp. Terry, of course, famously used a Telecaster, but he did use a humbucker pickup in the neck position. I have a great Telecaster back there, but it has the standard single coil in the neck position. Sounds great, but it's not a humbucker, so I figured I'd pick up the Les Paul. And a little fun fact for those of you who don't know, Terry would actually pick up a Les Paul from time to time. You can catch some of the videos out there on YouTube as well. So the main groove that Terry is playing throughout this is basically little staccato stabs on beats 2 and 4. So kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Right? And we'll talk about some of the variations on that. But let's just start with that pattern. And let's take a look at the chords. So the underlying chords are an A minor 7, a D7, a G7 suspended to a C. But what Terry does, he throws in an 11th on there. So you can hear him very clearly doing, got that D up on top there. So, basically it's an A minor 7 down below, and then a D up on top. Very cool chord. And then he moves that to a D7, standard D7 shape. Although that said, he may be leaving off that root note. It's a little hard to tell. In jazz or jazz-adjacent type playing, a lot of times they leave off the root note just to stay out of the way of the bass and the keys. So, you could totally do the top notes if you want, or throw the root in. Doesn't really matter too much. Okay, and then for the G7, now here's where it gets interesting. I hear him doing this for one stab and then for the second stab. And I just love that. I mean, it's so juicy. So now the way that I would look at this is like a G9. If you think the bass player is playing the G down below, Peter Cetera obviously, but the bass is playing G, so he's got the 7th here, the 9 here, and the 5 here. Right? No 3rd in this chord. But then he drops it down to a G7 flat 9. That's going to be the flat 9 there, still 7th here, and then the 5 up on top. And again, imagining the G is the root here. Either way you want to spell it or look at it, basically it's a very cool voice leading kind of pattern. And then resolving to a C. So all together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So cool. I love it. Now, what's funny about that, because I've seen Keith Howland do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So still kind of a great voice leading kind of thing. And I'm sorry that I don't remember this off the top of my head, but I think Terry might do that in the second verse. So, use your own ears. Check that out for yourself and see what you hear. But either way, it's a very cool voice leading thing. We've got the G up on top and moving that down to F sharp with our pinky, moving that to F, using our second finger, and then finishing off with a C, or like a C bar chord. Either way, that pattern's going to play all the way through the intro and the verse. Now, when we get to the pre-chorus, which is the people dancing, people laughing, we're going to do a B minor 7. It's hard to know whether Terry's doing that voicing, which is a very common jazz voicing, or this one, like a bar chord. I think it's this. This one's a little more comfortable for me to play on this song. But either way, use your ear and see what you think. He doesn't really do a clear pattern on it. He's kind of just arpeggiating it kind of loosely, actually. I'm almost even codifying it, just doing that much. And then E minor 7. Again, not a strict pattern there. And then moving to a D major 7 for the... And then for the singing Italian songs part, he does... Pretty sure that's a D sus up there. But let's back up. So we got G sus right here. Going to a G. And we do that twice. Going to a D sus. Now the second time through, or at least one of the times through, Terry does that very famous Terry Kath gallop. You hear that on a lot of his stuff, right? Again, he's sort of free-spirited about it, so sometimes he does like a kind of like a build-up, but sometimes he does that gallop. All together, we've got... Now for the hey compare, that whole part, he's going to start on a G triad, with a root on top, of course. Right, we're going to do one bar of that, or 2 stabs. And then an F, okay, this is where it gets interesting. You can spell this a number of ways, right? By itself, you might call it like an F add 2. But I think, and I could be wrong, I'm sorry, but if the bass is playing a G, then we'd spell that in relation to the G, which would be basically like a G9 sus. So there's your 7, there's your 9, there's your suspended, and there's no third in there, so that's why it's a suspension rather than like an 11 or something else. And then, of course, if the G's root, there's your root right there. So either way, bar of that, and then I think C for a bar, and back to G. So all together, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Now, call me crazy, and you have to use your own ears here, but when he gets to that G9 sus, I almost hear him start here, which is a great alternative voicing to that, by the way, putting that root on the low end. But I hear him only do that one time, and then move it up to the higher voicing. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Like that. Use your ear. See if you hear that too. I was trying to codify it, and say, okay, it's just this, but man, I can't help it. I hear that low note there. So, use your ears and see for yourself. Okay, now for the I've been waiting such a long time. That's gonna be an A minor 7. And again, he's not really, doing a strict pattern there, kind of like the B minor 7. He's just kind of floating around on the arpeggio. Whatever you want to do there. And then for the D chord, I hear him doing like an F sharp in the bass, like, could be wrong, but, sliding into it even. Now, after that, we're going to do this great 6th lick. And I say 6 because that's an interval of a 6, right? So we're going to be on the G and the high E string, 1st and 2nd finger, on the 11th fret and 10th fret. And I'm sliding into that first note, obviously. And I'm using a hybrid picking technique where I'm picking the G string and using my middle finger to pluck the high E string and giving it kind of a staccato sound. And then we're going to move that down to 9 and 8, then 7 and 7, 5 and 5, then 4 and 3. So, and then we're going to go back into 2 and 4 stabs on a G chord. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move it up to C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 bars / 4 stabs on G, 2 bars on C. And then we can basically play the same thing all the way through the intro, the second verse, second pre-chorus, and the chorus again. Again, if you want to throw that little Keith Howland variation in there, you totally can for the second verse, but ultimately we can play the exact same thing all the way through there. Now when we get to the bridge here, the underlying chords are going to be G minor 7 to C7. So, slow motion riders, fly the colors of the day. Then we're going to move that up a minor third, so to the 6th fret. A Browns man still can tell stories his own way. And then they move that up to D minor 7. Listen, children, all is lost, all is lost, all is lost. But here's the thing, Terry's not going to play that. In true Terry Kath form, he's not going to play what everyone else is doing. He's going to do another pattern, just to give it some arrangement. So he's going to do this pattern. Okay, and what that is a B-flat triad, which works because a B-flat is a relative major of G minor, so that totally works. Now you could look at it like, okay, you know, it's the upper notes of a G minor 7 chord. Put the root there for the G. Now this becomes a 5th, this becomes a 7th, this becomes a 3rd. We can go around and around on theory all day long, but the point is that he's doing a basic B-flat triad here, sliding into it, and then moving that up to a C triad. Okay, and that works obviously because it's a C7 chord. So we're going to slide that down. Now here's a really handy performance point here. From here, when we move up to the B-flat minor 7, yes, that's a minor third, but in this case, we're actually going to move that up a half step. And do the same pattern. Okay? And then from there, that'll be all through the B-flat minor 7 to E-flat 7 part. And then for the final, listen, children, we're going to go down to an F triad. Same pattern and everything, just we're down here now. Now here's the cool part about this. Terry at the very end goes from that very cool swing pattern to a straight feel, like one more time. Here we go. So, you know, very straight kind of thing. And it's a great way to segue back into that intro again. I never caught that on the full recording, but when I obviously heard the isolated track, I was just like, oh my god, that's brilliant, right? And at that point, we're basically back into the re-intro. Same progression, same everything. Now, as we finish off the song, we're basically going to do that 6th lick, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, back to the C. And we're just going to stay on C. We can keep that holding 1, 2, 3, 4. So a little upbeat on that C chord, but basically you just add a bar or two to that C chord, and then we're done. So it's a pretty simple song, but the voicings, again, to me, are just brilliant. And again, the arrangement, the fact that Terry's not just going to double what someone else is doing, he found great ways to do something different and add some arrangement to it. So hopefully that was as enlightening to you as it was for me when I was figuring it out. But either way, have some fun with it, and we'll see you around.